can kind of trip you up. So we only have a few lessons. You only have like six or seven lessons left, and that's it. And today's an easy one. So I have to say congratulations to you all. Hopefully you're learning something. I know you are, though. All right. All right. Let me share my screen. Let's get started. Then I'm going to go over an exercise with you. Okay. So basically, this is the intro to our present tense learning about verbs. Okay. And basically what they want to do is they want to give you a tab. I'm going to send this over to you in your email. I'm going to send this over as soon as the lesson's done, probably. And so what they do is they want to kind of let you know what it's going to look like before they get started. So they're introducing you to the letters that you're going to start seeing during these next couple lessons. So these are the letters that we're going to be dealing with. Okay. Some of them you've seen before, and they operate in different ways. So, in every one of these tenses, whether it's a present tense, it's a past tense, or a future tense, it's always going to be something different. Okay. But the things that don't change are the the 4 groups with the 7 forms. Okay. So each one of these groups, group 1, 2, 3, and 4, they have each, a simple and a forceful and a causative. And in each one of those, you have an active and you have a passive. Okay. So this is, not only with the present tense, but it's with the past tense and the future tense. We just left our future tense. And will you remember it? Maybe, maybe not. You got to kind of go over it over and over and over again. Okay. And of course, this one is active and passive because it's done on oneself. The goal of them showing you these new identifying signs right here is to help you understand what you're going to be looking at during these lessons. So the first one they're showing us here is that it's going to have a wa, a little dot over it. Okay. And of course, they have a name called a column, but we're not concerned with that. We're just looking at the identifying sign. I don't care what the name is at this moment. I really, in some regards, I do care what it sounds like, right? But they're not trying to teach me what it sounds like. They're just trying to teach me what it looks like. Okay. So, and where does it go? So somebody tell me, based on looking at this right here, where is this letter located? Is it in the first position, second position, third, fourth? Where is it at? How would you describe this? Where is this located?
Second position.
It is. So what it's saying is like, we know that a root consists of how many letters?
3.
3. Okay. So this is our 1, our 2, and our 3. So in a present tense, they're going to put this in particular identifying sign, okay, which is active, after the first letter. Okay. Don't want to confuse you, but later on, you're going to see it after the second letter. But right now, just focus on this one right here, that this is after the first letter. Okay. And it means something. And what does it mean according to what we have here? Just putting it in that position, it tells us something about what is that sign? What are we talking about? What type of tense are we talking about?
Present.
We're talking about present tense. Okay. So it's something that's actively happening from the writer's perspective. It's very important to know, and like I said, I complain a lot because a lot of people just talk about things that have been done in the past, but they don't really accept the present tense. Like when the Most High says that he's creating, he's saying right now. So that's what makes the Torah living, because he speaks of things, that are in the past and the present and the future for us. But there's also a lot of times when he speaks and he's talking about the present tense, like I'm doing it right now. So our book is not a book that's old and it's antiquated. It's actually living, because there's a lot of things in there that he says that he's actively doing right now. I mean, I've showed you several times where he says, I'm saving you right now. He says, I'm forming you right now. So we know that if it's happening right now, that means that we're in the process of something. So that's important to know. Okay. Now, whether this is done in the past or the present or the future, you still have to find out whether it was done actively, the person himself is doing it, or is it being done on someone, So it's someone doing the action, or is the action being done on someone else? So here, this is the active, and here, this is the passive. Now we have something interesting. The second identifying sign is this noon. But we know that we've seen this noon a lot. We saw it in the past tense, okay? And it's generally going to be associated with a passive, So the first one is active, and here's the passive. Those are the identifying marks of a past tense, active and passive. We also see that this letter noon represents a group of people. We, okay, when it's added to the front of a root, okay, or us, okay, depending on what is, the text. So now it's saying that it's passive for a present tense. So this can actually mean a present tense as well that is being done in a passive manner. Okay, and so we're going to go over that. So, lesson number 16 is where they're going to break down all of this. Okay, and where they're going to begin in lesson number 16, just to let you know, they're only going to deal, this is how deep it is, they're only going to deal in the active. This is the only one they're going to deal with. They're only going to deal in the active. They're only going to talk about this in lesson number 16. This group right here, group number 1, simple active, and that's it. So all next week, that's all they're going to be talking about is this. And there's several pages on it, so it's pretty intense. Okay. And then, of course, after they finish that, then we're going to go to the simple passive, and they're going to talk about that and how that works. Okay. All right. Now we're talking about this other group number 2. And so they're letting us know that the letter that they're adding is these 2 letters. And they're exactly the same. They have the 2 dots underneath them, right? So that's going to be part of your lesson. Probably lessons numbers 17 and 18, something like that. Okay. Then 19, we'll probably have these right here. Same thing, another mem, they're added. So we got to figure out how it's functioning. So you see where some confusion can come in, because these 2 look exactly alike with the 2 dots underneath them. They're exactly alike. So how will we know? And of course, from the patterns that we've been shown, more than likely it's going to have to do with the second letter, which is that sound of ah and oo, because oo always has to do with this passiveness, okay, that we see in causative. So there's some features and some functions about it, how it works here, just like it does in the present tense. More generally, the oo sound is passive, okay, and we'll see that, okay. But you see that the laws or the rules of group 1, 2, and 3, when you're talking about a future tense, are nowhere to be seen in here. So you can't take the 2 dots right here and say, oh, well, that's group number 2 again. You could, but that's not really safe, because you got to understand what this letter means. Because this letter here means something that's being done in a present tense. But what's another meaning of this letter?
From.
From, exactly. So if it's from, so you have to know, how can I differentiate between it meaning from and meaning present tense, active, or present tense passive? How can I differentiate between the 2? And they're going to teach that to us. Okay. And so all of these things are going to be by sight and sound. Number 3, group number 3. Here is our causative group. The groups haven't changed, right? It's still simple, forceful, and causative. San Francisco, California, all day long. That hasn't changed. Okay. And this one right here is on oneself. That hasn't changed. The only thing that changes is whether it's in the past, the present, or the future. And that's from the author's perspective. They're telling you something, okay, in that particular time, which is very, very important. So you see group number 3 has the same letter as group number 2, right? And then, of course, you have some different vowels underneath there. which they're going to go over, but they don't want you to be tripping off of this because they're just showing you the identifying sign, which is the mem. So you have literally what they would say 3 ways. That's all they're trying to show you, is that there are 3 ways of making a present tense. That's all. And here's the first way with the wa, the second way is the noon, and this is the third way right here. And including this, that's included. That's only 3 ways. Okay. So those are the only 3 letters that we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of lessons. All right. So adding a wa after the first letter root tells you there. The second way of doing it is adding a noon onto the front of the root, which is the 3 letters. Adding a mem onto the front of the root. And so they're letting you know where you can see that above. Okay. So the present tense, these are the letters that are for the present tense. So that's just more pieces to your puzzle. Okay. But you have to think now, is this right here? You know, we know that there's no word that actually starts with, you know, with a wa with a dot over it. So we know that this either going to be in the, you know, in front as a and, or it could be operating as a present tense. We know that the noon can be passive, or it could mean we will, or it could be present tense. So there's 3 different ways. So we have to accept that. Okay. And the mem is operate either as a preposition, or here is going to be a present tense, or it may just be part of the root, you know? So we have to look at that too. So once we start seeing this a lot, we'll be like, oh, okay, I know what that is. We have to figure it out. It's just a puzzle. It's always going to be a puzzle. Okay. One of the things I do want you to really pay attention to, though, is they put this here for a purpose, is these little notes that they have, 1 and 2, and then here's the third one. There's 3 notes. So on the bottom of your page, they have those notes there. Don't skim over those. Really pay attention and, you know, teach yourself this. Note number 1 says that he is causing someone else to wear the clothes, and 1 is talking about a causative action, right? So they're just giving you the fundamental principle of what this means, like when someone is causing, but you ask yourself, well, how do you know it's he, right? Because they're saying he caused. Well, I don't want you to get tripped up, because this letter right here doesn't mean he, does not mean he, okay? And if we take that letter off, then all you have is the root. I get rid of that too. You have the lamed, the bet, and the shin, which are lavash or labash. So how are they saying it that it's a he? How are they identifying this as a he? Something that you're always going to have to remember.
By knowing that the 3-letter root is perfect, which is past tense.
Yes, perfect. Yes, yes, yes. The 3-letter root by itself, everyone, praise Yah, is always he. This is always he, 3rd person masculine singular. Okay. This is a 3rd person masculine singular. This is a 3rd person masculine singular. You understand? If I want to feminize it, I'll just put this on there. Still makes, now she's still perfect. Okay. So you have to remember that. That's part of your lessons. So if you understand that, then you'll be good. You'll be like, okay, now I know how to interpret it. So now, according to those examples that we have up there, it has a mem on the front of it. So that tells us something that they already told us, like, you know, hey, this is a present tense. That's all you got to remember. It's a present tense. And so presently, he is causing someone else to wear clothes. Number 2, down on the bottom, he is being caused by someone else to wear clothes. He is being dressed. Okay. So if you're causing someone else to do something, right, then, or he is being caused by someone else is doing the action on him, he's the one who's receiving the action, and he is being dressed. And of course, they're talking about, you know, number 2 right there. And you can see that the he is already included in that part right there. Okay. They're just translating it out for us without us showing any kind of letter. But of course, if you saw a yod right there, you would know it's he, but that is in a future tense because it doesn't have a letter on the front of it. Then it's in its perfect form. The only thing that's changing its position is this letter. See, so they add letters to give you tenses. That's what we're finding. They change vowels to tell you the tense. Is it past, present, or future? They tell you to give you letters to let you know, is it past, present, or future? Okay. So these in particular letters are very important because they're indicating that something is presently happening at that moment. Okay. If it was a yod, it'd be he is, he will. If it was an aleph, I will. If it's a noon, we will. If it's a tav, you will. If it's a hey, he will. Okay. Meaning causative, right? In the past tense. So there's all those different pieces. So you just put new pieces and adding new pieces to your puzzle. Great answer. And of course, the last one is he dresses himself. The mem added onto the front of the root. There he's dressing himself. He's causing himself to wear clothes. Okay. And all they've done is they didn't add this tav right here. They're just added the mem and they combined it together. And so it would be mith lavesh. Okay. Just like you would have yith lavesh. Okay, if I put that yod, I would know, okay, that's my piece when I'm adding something. So, oh, that's future tense. Okay, if I got a mem on the front, oh, that's present tense. Oh, if I put a noon on it, oh, that's future tense. If I put another tav on top, oh, that's future tense. See, so each one of these letters that you know represents what's going on at that in particular time. So just using letters to tell you about time, which is interesting. Powerful. And how is it possible that they're able to just use letters to tell you about time? Somebody tell me, because it just popped in my head. How's it possible that they can just use letters to tell you about time? Why letters? Well, because if you have a mem, the mem functions. It's telling you right there that letters have function. That's what letters do. They function. That this bet right here is in and with, it's function. It functions a certain way. When you put an aleph on something, it adds strength to something. It's function. Okay, you add a tav, hey, that's a mark. I'm marking either you're the mark, or she would be the mark, if I put a yod on the end. So it's just letting you how things function. The noon, well, that means we. So why would they get we out of the noon? Well, because it has to do with a seed. And a seed grows and it multiplies. See? So the Hebrew language just operates like that. They're not empty letters. So when they put the mem on the front, it's for a reason. They put the bet on the front of a word, it's for a reason. As a preposition, they put the lamed on the front of a word, it's for a reason. It's how something is moving, it's how it's functioning. And that's one of the things that I want you to get out of your lessons is like, this is literally a living language. And that's what makes it fun. It makes it exciting because you can start seeing other things. Because when we talk about it, our conversation, if you notice this, let's using some of my street talk, let's peep game. Okay, here it is. When you talk about a root of something, you're literally talking about agriculture. You're talking about something that is living. You understand? That's why. Okay. So when they add something, you got to remember this thing is living. Now we just got to figure out how it's going to function. How is it moving? You know what I mean? That's all. That's all it is. It's agriculture. The language is an agricultural language. And that's what makes it special. And that's what makes it alive. Okay. So we're now going to discuss each one of these present tense forms in detail over the next few lessons. However, as they said above, all I wanted to do today is to show you what letters are going to be used. There are 3 possible ways of making something present tense. Okay. No, the first lesson is pretty heavy. So that's the reason why they're not going into it, because it can overwhelm you. Okay. So that's why we're going to pick it off one at a time. All right. So these are the 3 little pieces that you're adding to your root. And you're adding it to your root so you can make your root grow in a certain way. Okay. So let's keep, if the language is agriculture and has to do with living in roots, then we'll talk in terms of gardening and stuff like that so we can better understand it. Okay. So with this in mind, it's clear that the following verbs are all in its present tense, and they're showing you some examples that you're going to have to look at. If you know your vocabulary, it'd be very helpful for you because you'll be like, okay, I know that this first word right here, I can see that it has a shin, a bet, and a resh. I know that's shavar or shabar, and I know that means to break. So what does this mean? Just by having this in it, what does it mean?
Breaking.
I'm breaking. Now that we know that that's what it is after the second letter, we got that. Now we understand, though, that it's inside of this root. The root is to break, right? And so we understand that this first one of this wa right here is in a simple form. It's a simple action. So it's they're breaking something in a very simple way, okay? They're not smashing it, okay? We know that, okay? Then, of course, here is a car. You can see that, zoker, see? So we know what zakar. Zakar means to
Remember.
So now here it is, it's either remembering or reminding, okay? Kothave, right? So kathav or kathav means to write. I just changed this and put this in there after the second letter. So it's ing, I'm doing something, it's an ing. An easy way to remember the ing is just having that dot over there and you just put an N and a G right there. You know, make it make sense for you some type of way, okay? In the grammatical language, or the actual appropriate term is called a participle, but they didn't mention here, so I'm not gonna go into it. But I know that it's actively happening, okay? So when I look at that and I hear an O sound, I'd be like, okay, that's a present tense. Because that's the rule. If you notice all of these words going across, it has the same zo, ko, you know, bo, go, show. It's all the same. Chover, chomar, cholech, chomer, chover. See? So if you know your roots, then once you add something to your root, you'll know how it's functioning. So let's just take this little wa right here. And we know that this is an ing. And we're putting that ing on a root. This means something that's continuing, right? So if we're talking about grow, all I'm gonna do is put the ing on it. And what I have, growing, okay? So now, and so if something's growing, it's actively happening, what? Right now. Do you understand? So that's a good way for you to remember this, okay? So if I'm kothaving, if I'm kothave, I am writing, see, actively, right now. You know, in a sense that it's an action that's continuing right now at the very moment, okay? So in a sense, it's growing because what? It's active. If it's not active, it's not growing and it's stand still, okay? Then it's past tense. So, and when something's in the past, it's done. It's done. It's not growing anymore. It's finished. That's how you and I have to start thinking. Okay. If we're talking about something that's going to continue, right? It's continuing, then it would be probably a O sound like chover or zover. Okay. Or zoker or kothave. Okay. Or boker. Okay. So that's what we have. Does that make sense to everyone? Just trying to apply these agricultural principles so it can help us understand how these things are going. Because every time you see something, they're just putting some new letter onto a root, and how that root is going to respond depends on what letter you use and where you're putting that letter. So where are you putting, so let's look at it this way. These are your, change it up. These are your seeds. Those roots, they come from a seed. And the seeds are these in particular letters. Okay. So if you want something to grow, then of course and happen right now, you put that in there. You put that wall with the O on the top of it, the O dot on the top. You see? So you're just adding something to your root so it can grow, or it can stop, or it could be in the future. Okay. Because if something will be, check this out. if something's going to be, they would add a letter onto the front, right? They put a noon on the front, they put a yod on the front, they put a tav on the front. It's something that will. And it goes from a he will, I will, you will, to not only will you do it, but then you move from a future tense to a present tense. And then once it goes from the present, then it goes into the past. See, so it goes future to the present, and then it goes to the past. Then it's done. Those are the steps. But sometimes, depending on what's going on, someone might be talking in the future tense. Then you know if it's in the future, then one day it will go into its present when they get to the point of actually doing it. Okay, ing, doing, growing, and then in the past, it's finished, it's done. Okay. So the second letter, of course, is the noon, and you can see all those examples. They're using the same root. Okay, they just added this extra letter here and telling you how it's going to function. So instead of, he doing the action is happening to him. And why it's him is because it's a it's a three-letter root, and it's perfect. And now they're putting something on it, right? And so now it functions differently. Now we know from what we're learning that the noon could be we will, or right. So in this case, that can be confusing because this says nishbar. Well, if we're thinking about a past tense, which we're not talking about today, it would be like we will, or excuse me, he will. Okay, but that's not what it's saying here. Okay. The noon, the mem here is telling us that it's a present tense, right? So those are the things that we're going to be going over. So when you get a chance, just remember there's only 3 ways from this teaching so far for you to turn something into a present tense. Okay. So that's that. Now, what I want to share with you, which I did last week, and I think Marcia was here, and I want to share something with you all. Okay, here, let me show you something right quick, because I promised myself I would continue to go over these things with you. All right. All right, so what we have here is what they would call, let me see. Hi, David. What is the difference between 3 and 4? On that chart that, sorry, just got to your question, Kel. The difference between group number 3 and group number 4 is that group number 3 is causative. Is something that's being caused by a person, or it's happening to a person. Okay, they're being caused to do something. If it's in group number 4 is always going to be what you call a reflexive verb tense, meaning like the person is doing something to themselves. They're the one causing the action to happen to themselves. So for example, say I clothe myself, then that means I dress myself. I put on clothes on myself. You see, I ate. What did I do? I fed myself. See, so the difference between those is one is in group number 3, you have an active and a passive. The active is someone is doing the action to cause someone else to do something. Okay, so for example, a person is causing someone to eat something. Then that would be he fed him. See? Say that the person who, when you're talking about a passive, it's the actions happening to someone. So one is he did the action, he fed him, versus he was fed. Okay. So you got to look at that. He fed versus he was fed, or he was being fed. Okay. So one is one doing the action, and the other one is the action is happening to someone or something. I hope that answers your question. This chart right here, don't let it confuse you. When I first looked at it, I was confused and I was afraid and I was scared because I didn't understand the language. And I didn't understand what these words mean, right? But I have found a way to help you understand it a lot better. Okay. what we have here is we have what they call the active and passive way of doing things. Okay. One is you are doing the action, right? And this is someone or something else is doing the action. Okay. So one is you actively doing it, and the other one is someone else is doing it upon you or something else. Okay. The reflexive is the group number 4, right? Meaning that I'm going to do this action on oneself. I'm going to feed myself. I'm going to dress myself. I'm going to brush my hair. I'm going to drive myself. I'm doing all these types of things. Okay. And then, of course, we have our ways of doing things, which is the simple. And then they have intensive, which will be called the forceful. And then we have the simple, which is, regular. And then we have the causative. Okay. So we have group 1. This is group number 2. And this is group number 3. And this is group number 4 right here. All right. How can I begin? How did we get on that, Marcia? How did we start last time? Do you remember?
Yes, I think you were telling us to remember the sounds like the ah for pa'al, and then we went.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So listen, you guys, you see, all right. So look, the simple is right here. Okay. The intensive is this right here. Okay. The simple active is called this sound. Okay. The simple simple intensive or forceful is called that sound. The simple, the causative is this sound, right? And they got the passive over here, and then they got the passive over here, and then they got the simple passive over here. So you can kind of see this kind of looks like a what? What does that look like?
Looks like a manure to me.
Yeah,
Yes.
candlestick.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Okay. So I just saw that myself. Okay. So this is like a manure. That's how you should look at this. Okay. And the manure has what they would call a stem, which is this big part right here. Okay. And off of this stem, okay, your stem is called a root. Okay. That's what they call a stem, a root. The names that they're giving us here are Pa'al and PL, Hifil, Hithpael, Hufal, Pual, and Nifal. Okay. So let's begin on this side over here on the simple action. I'm going to work this direction. Okay. I'm not going to go here and then go here and then go here and then go here. Okay. I'm just going to start over here right quick on the right. So why do they call it Nifal? Why are they calling it that?
Because that's the sound of the letters.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're calling it that. Okay. So that's excellent. Within every one of these so-called stems, okay, you got this idea of this, P sound or this PH sound, right? P sound or PH is the F, right? It's really a PH. This is a PH as well, who fall, okay? And then P and then P, okay? So they all have something in common. So all of our stems have something in common. And what they have in common is, I'm going to show you. So we can take the mystery out of everything. Because I think they did this on purpose, to discourage individuals from learning the language. That's the Paul. That's the same letters. That's the same letters. That's the same letters. That's the same letters. Get that out of there. That's the same letters, and that's the same letters. All 7 of them have this word called Pa'al. Okay. So what does Pa'al mean? Why are they calling it that? Because Pa'al means work. or to do. And if you're going to work and you're going to do something, it would be an action. Does everybody follow me? That's the reason.
Yes.
That's the reason that they're calling it a pa'al or nifal or hufal or hithpael or nifil or piel or pa'al. They all have that same root in common, but they all work differently. Okay. And there's 7 of them, just like a manure, right? So now that we know what pa'al means, and now that we understand why they're naming this nifal, let's break it out. The first letter right here is what in English?
And
And
So that's going right here. Okay. It has a little dot underneath it right here. So in this word right here, what do you think that represents?
the I.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to show you something. So this is the noon. This is the I right here. Okay. What else do we have? We have the pay sound, but it doesn't have a dot in it. So it's like a PH. They put an F right here, but it's really a PH. Okay. So we got nif, and then we have a silent ion, and then you have a little ah sound that's right there. Then you have the lamed, which is right here. And so that makes that sound nif all. Okay. Nifal. That's how you come up with it. And what is a nifal? What category is a nifal in? Is it active or passive?
Passive.
It's passive. Okay. And it's in a simple group. It's right here. Okay. All right. So that's the reason why they're naming it. Now, let me show you the secret. Okay. So now that we understand what a nifal is, right? And we understand that they added this letter. Okay. If I got rid of all the letters they added, then it'd still be the same in particular thing. It all have everything in common. Okay. So the difference between all of these is the added letters and these particular dots and stuff, these marks, these identifying signs. Okay. So these 3 letters are what they would call your root. Okay. Now, those 3 letters represent, hear what I'm about to tell you, any 3-letter root. That's why they come in a 3-letter package. You understand? So if I use the call, shamar, shavar, doesn't matter. Give me another one. Lavash. Okay. Doesn't matter. They're all 3, aren't they? They're always coming in 3-letter packages. Okay. So the first letter of pa'al is going to, and let me just write it out for you. The first letter of the pa'al, here, I'll put it right here, is going to correspond to whatever the root is. The second letter is going to respond to that letter, and the third letter is going to respond to that letter. That means that this is just taking the place of the pa'al, because now I'm working with this in particular verb. I'm going to tell you how a call is going to work, okay? Or I'm going to tell you how shamar is going to work. Or I'm going to tell you how shabar is going to work, okay? So this really here is just telling me that it's working and what I need to do with it, okay, and how it functions, all right? So listen. Now I'm going to have you go over to the other side of the screen so we can make it really simple. All right. So we have over here pa'al, right? All I got to do is switch out some letters. I want to talk about eating. So what's the first letter I want to eat something. I want to do that work. What's the first letter I'm going to switch this payout with?
The P.
Aleph. Talking in Hebrew. What's the next letter I'm going to switch the ayin out for? Kaf. And then the final's lamed. Okay. And all I have to do is just put the same vowels underneath it, and guess what it's called?
To eat.
Call. Okay. Sha. Var. You understand? Sha. Mar. They're all type of actions. You see? All you got to do is just get rid of these letters right here and put the new letters of your root over it. And that's how you'll know what it is. Do you see that? Let me give you the next example. And that's a simple way of doing it. If I wanted to do this as the same root, right? And I want to make it a PL, what do I need to put under the aleph to make it a PL type of verb? What vowel do I need to put underneath here? 1 dot, 2 dots.
2.
1.
1 dot. What goes under the second letter?
Atah.
It's right here.
Oh. Yeah, 2 dots.
So how would you say that?
Echel.
Ikel. Okay. So I want you to say Ikel and then say PL. You hear that?
Again.
Now, that's called shavar. So if I want to make this into a very intensive action, I'm just going to put the same type of vowels underneath those 2 letters. And I got sheber. You see? Ikel sheber. Depending on what the letters are. So what am I really doing? All I'm doing is replacing these letters up here with the 3 letters from my verb. I'll just put a aleph right here, and I'll put a kaf right there, and I'll put a lamed right here, and I'll put this other yod right here, and I'll put this hey right here. Hikil, that'd be hifel. See, you hear the sound? Hikil, hifel. Ikel, pl. Sheber, pl. See, depends on what that last consonant is. So the principle is this, is that the pa'al is nothing but a foundation to work from to tell you how something is going to work. That's all it means, is how something works. So if you understand that a pa'al is this, just a and this is a and you know this is a he il, okay? You know this is a hith pi el. Okay, I could put any verb I want to in place of these letters right here and make it my own. Okay, I could throw a shin over here. I could put the mem right here. I could put a resh right here. Why? Because it's functioning, it's working, it's an actual function. It's how do I want this in particular root to work? That's all I wanted to show you, is that you can learn this a lot faster if you know that, if you knew the secret. The secret is just replacing these letters. All this is a root. So just put whatever root you want in and keep the same vowel points underneath it. Let me give you an example. I have this one right here. Okay, I'm going to use that type of verb stem. So I'm going to switch out the letters except for the noon, and I'm going to put the shin, I'm going to put the mem, and I'm going to use the resh. Okay. Shin, mem, resh, which is shamar. Okay. From its very basic meaning, but I want to make it into a passive. So let's get rid of this. And what do I have left? I have a noon. So put the noon right here. What's underneath? The dot. Then what comes next? The two dots. Then what's next? That. So what would I say? How do you say that?
Nishmal.
Nishmar. Nishmar tells me, and based on this vowel pointing here in this letter, tells me that it is a nifael, okay? A nifal, excuse me, a nifal, which is a passive form of a simple action. Does anyone have any questions? Do you guys kind of see what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to switch this out. All this is just telling you that that means to work. That's all it is. But it's not the actual, it is a three-letter root, but all the vocabulary that you've been getting has been different than that. But this word right here literally represents what they're talking about. The shin and the mem and the resh represents a pa'al. They just gave it a name of pa'al to identify that it's something that's working, it's something that's active. Okay. So I wanted to bring out, and I'll always bring that out. So all you have to understand or to remember is that if I change out the pa'al for whatever it is, for whatever root I have, that's all I got to do. That'd be a call. This right here would be ikel. You see, I haven't changed these vowels underneath it. Okay. I haven't done that. Okay. All you got to do is just replace these letters, whatever root it is. Just change those three letters. And remember what their positions are. Okay. And this was added. So then you just add it to that. And that would be a hitpael. Okay. So you see this right here is causative. That's what we learned in our lesson, that's a causative feature. This right here is a passive feature that's on a simple action. Okay. Any questions? Don't let it scare you. It's nothing. Marcia.
Yes.
Could you explain to the class about the pa'al in your own words?
Well, what really helped me was knowing how to identify these different what are they called? The different roots or stems for any word, any verb that we use.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped me with identifying the pa'al. If I know that it's a I just know to say for any verb.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's in the simple form.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's active.
Uh-huh.
And the same thing with the PL. If I know that it is the a sound, then I know that it's active. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
But I know that it's forceful.
Uh-huh.
So it was really putting that whole chart of simple, simple, forceful, and causative right there in front of me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It just opened up my understanding of how to identify that quickly.
Yeah. So what it says, in order for us to identify, because you guys are only using this as the foundation to say, well, okay, so when they put this together, right? I asked myself, well, why did they use the word pa'al? Why is that in every last one of these 7 verb stems? And I looked up the definition, and again, pa'al means to work. So they're letting you know this is just representing the actual, what they would call a root. That's all. It's a representation to let you know, because it means work. So they're going to tell you how that in particular root or that stem is working. Is it working in a simple active way? Is it working in a simple forceful intensive way? Is it working in a causative way? Okay. And if it is, then the only thing that's changing is the vowel sounds underneath it, or a letter that's being added to it, like you would see with his field. Okay. So let's just take his field, for example. That's a causative. So somebody tell me what was added to the pa'al. What's added to the pa'al to make it causative? What's added?
Hey.
And what else?
The yod.
The yod. Get rid of those two, and it's back to being on normal pa'al. So you need the hey and the yod in order to make it a hit feel. Because if I break out that in particular word, right? Say, for example, like through the letters, the H is this. The dot right here is that I sound. That PH is that F right here. The I right here is this dot right here representing that yod, and the L right there is there. That's why they call it a hit fail. That's the only reason why they call it a hit fail. So what is really the hit fail? Well, the hit fail is not just what makes it hit fail is the added letters and the added vowel sounds. So I'm gonna get rid of this for you right quick and show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna get rid of 3 letters, which is the pa'al. That's what I'm gonna get rid of. I'm gonna get rid of those 3 letters right there. Okay. Maybe I should do another color, because I want this to make sense. I don't want you to leave without really understanding what I'm saying. So I'm gonna get rid of the pa'al letters so you can see what I'm saying, and I'll show you what's left. I'll leave everything that's left. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this. I just got rid of the letters. That's it, the pa'al letters. So that's the only thing that's left. That's what's called. That's what's making it causative. Okay, okay, and this PL, I'm gonna get rid of this stem. I'm gonna get rid of this root, because that's what it is. They only named it that because of what it means. It means to work. So it's really what a representation of what they would call a verb. So I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna leave what's left. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the lamed here, and I'm gonna get rid of the ayin here, and I'm gonna get rid of the pay, and that's what's left. What makes it a pa'al is the pronunciation is the letters and everything. But what really makes it a pa'al or a simple action is the sounds. See, so when you go through and you get rid of all the pa'als and just leave the verb, leave the sounds, which is the vowels, because you need vowels in order to make a sound. That's what's making the sound, is the vowels. So I'm gonna get rid of everything, okay, or get rid of those 3 letters, and that's what's left. I'm gonna get rid of this root, the working root, the working stem. I'm gonna get rid of it, and that's what's left. That makes this a causative. Okay. So let's do that one too. Be consistent so you can really get it in your mind what I'm doing here. Okay, get rid of that. I don't care what it's called right now, because we already know how to say why it's called that, because those are the letters that are over it. That's the only reason it's called a pa'al or a PL or a hufal and all this kind of stuff is because the letters that they're using over it. That's the reason why it's called that, and because of the function of the particular word. Pa'al means to work. So that's your example. Now that this is left, after I took out the words, the 3 letters, I can replace those 3 letters of the pa'al, the pay, the ayin, and the lamed with any other 3 letters I want to. Okay, so let's start over here on the left-hand side, called pa'al. I'm going to put in to eat. I'm going to put it as an, I just replaced the 3 letters with another 3 letters. Now I know that a call means to eat. And now I understand that, and that's exactly how you say it. Well, I don't like that word. I don't want to use that. I don't want to work that. I don't want to work with that one. I want to work with this one now. The shamar. That's exactly how you say shamar. It's still simple and it's still active. I haven't changed nothing down here. It's still the same. The only thing I replaced was what? What did I replace?
The root.
The root. So what I'm telling you is, if you understand, if you have a whole bunch of 3-letter roots, you don't have to change this, because that's going to give you that sound. So once I get rid of I get rid of that letter, the pa'al, right, to get this, I just took those letters out. So all that's left is this. What's left over here? What's left over here? I still got the H. Oh, okay. And I got the I. That's still there. Okay. I got rid of that. What else did I get rid of? Oh, that's it. How about this one? What did I get rid of? I got rid of this, the P. What else did I get rid of? I got rid of the A. And what else did I get rid of? I got rid of the L. Because that's the pay, the ayin, and a lamed. So get rid of that. That's just there to substitute whatever other 3-letter roots you want to put in. What I got rid of here? Oh, I got rid of the P. I get rid of the A. And I got rid of the L. So that's what's left. See the who? Who right there. Get rid of this. I'm getting rid of this. And I'm getting rid of this. So I can replace now that I've done this, I can replace those letters with whatever letters I choose out of whatever root I want to choose. I want to put the aleph right here, and I put the kaf right here, and the lamed. It's ekel. I want to put the aleph right here. I want to put the kaf right here. The same root, a call. I want to put the what? I don't think it works right here with the aleph, because there's some rules that go along with that. But do you guys kind of see what I'm saying? Yes? Maybe? No?
Yes.
All right. So
Yes.
that's what it is. So the lesson is that all a pa'al is to let you know how something is working. They only use this word here to tell you that every 3-letter stem that you have, it's going to tell you how it works and what it's doing. That's all. That's all a 3-letter stem is for, is to tell you how it's going to grow, or what can you make it do, right? And what makes it easy is all you have to do is replace those 3 letters with whatever letters you want. So if the P is the first letter, then you replace that with whatever first letter of your root. If the second letter is an ayin, you replace that with whatever letter you have in your second part of your root. If it's a third letter, which is lamed, you get rid of that, because you're introducing another stem. So pa'al is a stem, but it's just telling you how the stem works. That's all it's telling you. And when you replace it with whatever root you want, that'll tell you if it's active or passive or causative, because the actual vowels underneath it is not going to change. What do I mean by that? Here. What word is this? What do you want to make it? Put an A right there. It's dad. You couldn't say it unless you had a vowel right there. I can make it did. I need that vowel in order to say that word. Do you understand? So that's the same thing. In the Hebrew language, you actually need these in particular vowels in order for you to say a word. See, without those vowels, it just be letters. And you would not be able to pronounce it unless you understood. You could go, P. You don't know. So the el is what's the forceful. That's the intense. The all is the simple. The el right here is the causative. The u is passive. The u is passive. Remember, I told you you're gonna hear that sound. The u, that's passive. So when you hear something at the end, okay, or the beginning, the ah, or the pu all, then you know, oh, that's passive. You hear the that right there lets you know, oh, that's active. Is active, u is passive. So all you do is just replace it with your whatever root you want to use. That's the only thing I wanted to show you. And of course, we're going to continue to go over it. Okay.